In 108 BC, the Gojoseon nation from Korea attacked the Chinese known as the Han. The Han were too strong, they fought for several years and they defeated the Gojoseon. So they decide to divide the land of Gojoseon into 4 militant groups, Jinbeon, Limdun, Hyeonchugun, and Nakrang. But the citizens managed to escape and migrate to other countries, and others wandered aimlessly without resting. Later they began a resistance movement with their leader Hamosu. So officially the movie begins in Buyo City, under Hyeonchugun, one of the Gojoseon land. We get to see a fight between two personnels. Well-trained soldiers show off their skills until one is kicked out of the ring. The Han governor's assistant in this region is impressed with his skills, so he orders for Imperial Warrior Sword to permit him to go to the capital Shenyang. At the moment someone comes and requests for a challenge, the champion agrees to duel with him. They begin to fight and both look seniors. They fight until they break the spear sharp end, as it falling to the ground. The man in yellow kicks it and it hits the ambassador to death. We get to see the rebels known as the Damo army surrounding the whole area fighting with Han soldiers. They start rescuing the Gojoseon prisoners who had been captured by the Hans. The Han most dangerous army known as the Iron Army surround the area. The Damo soldiers strikes them with arrows. One of the rebel tries to shoot the remaining leader, but he missed by a slight margin. The Han brings in more soldiers and the Damo leader orders his men to retreat. They ride to the forest and one of them fall off the horse. They realize that he has been cut. We get to know that one in purple is Prince Gimwa, and one in yellow is General Hamosu, leader of the Damo rebels. The next day in Buyo City, we see their king known as Abello, father to Prince Gimwa, but he looks to be unwell. His royal subject, Chang-eun, he advised the king not to render any aid to the Gojoseon refugees, that they might be made to suffer a reprisal from Han nation. They take this special conversation inside and Chang-eun continues that the Han Iron Army has passes through the Liaodong, and they moving towards our side in order to prevent the refugees from escaping the Han 4 groups rule. The king informs that what about the ones who have already settled in Buyo? Chang tells him that they won't discover them because they already attained a Buyo citizenship. The king suggests that they can fight the Han, but Chang Han informs him that the Han most dangerous army known as the Iron Army utilizes copper spears and body armor to fight wars, so it's impossible to stand with them. We get to see Prince Gimwa back in the palace. He meets his father. He asks why he came back wounded and Gimwa lies to him that he fell off from the horse, but unfortunately resulted into his health. But Chang-eun is not pleased with the prince's statement. King Abello meets the high priestess, Yomilyu. She tells them that Buyo's light is vanished by the 3-legged bird. She continues that a 2-legged bird represents your majesty and the crown prince, but now there's another 1-legged bird. It signifies Buyo's division and end. Back to the Damo army as they plan to attack and steal the Han military supplies. Then someone informs them that clan groups are moving towards Hyeonchugun for a meeting. Hamosu sends his men to spy on their activities. Even Buyo is part of the meeting and the prince is sent as their representative. He meets a certain girl on his way and Chang-eun informs him that she's from Harbeck clan, and she's known as Yowa. As he heads inside he meets his old friend, Yangjing, who joined the Han imperial family's guard. In the meeting, Taisho tells them that whoever manages to capture or kill Hamosu will be bestowed with riches from the Han. He later takes them outside for entertainment. He orders his men to bring the Gojoseon refugees. He gives them a chance that whoever kills the entire Iron Army will be granted his freedom. I like this idea from this fool. These people are not trained, but if one kills the entire Iron Army will be free to go. They give them swords and having nothing to do they just pick them. They try fighting but this is the Han's strongest army and they are slaughtered. Even swords that can't penetrate their armor. They kill all of them leaving no survivor. Back to the Damo army, they train day and night to perfection their skills. They receive swords from Buyo delivered by Prince Gimwa. Chang-eun informs the king that 3-legged bird is auspicious sign. It indicates the emergency of a new hero. And that new hero is not other than General Hamosu. Chang continues that Hamosu is dreaming of becoming emperor. So for the sake of Buyo's future, Chanan suggests that they must get rid of Hamosu. Prince Gimwa has a family, Lady Ye Soya his wife, and a baby boy, Daiso. She asks him to carry the baby which he refuses. Chanan notices Gimwa sneaking out of the palace at night. He moves to the bush and informs one rebel to tell General Hamosu to delay the expedition for the time being and he hide immediately. Then at that very moment the messenger is killed by Chanan who followed the prince. He reports him straight to the king. The king furiously informs him that if we go into the battle with the Han, we shall face the same fate as Gojoseon. The king asks Gimwa what he would choose between Buyo his kingdom and Hamosu. and Gimwa chooses death instead because he equally loves the two parties. Prince Gimwa rides to the Damui's army camp that night, but only to find that general and his men had already gone to attack to steal the Han's military supplies. They kill the available guards with fire arrows, head down to fight the remaining soldiers, but unfortunately the Iron Army was assigned to be ready to ambush the Damui. As Hamosu is slaughtering the Han soldier, he sees the Iron Army approaching. He tries to strike one, but the arrow just bounces off the armor. Hamosu, run my brother. They start killing his soldiers with their strong unbreakable spears. Hamosu sees that his men are nothing against the Iron Army, so he orders them to retreat. As Hamosu is surrounded by many soldiers, leader of the Iron Army strikes him with a spear and he falls in river. Gimwa is frustrated to hear the news, but he tells them he can't believe that he's dead until he sees his body. Yowa from Habeck clan sees the body of a man floating on the river heading towards their side. She and her servant pulls the man out and we get to see Hamosu still alive. They boil medicine for him and offers good care to see whether he might recover. At the moment he wakes up, they asked what happened to him, but he seemed not to talk. They take a walk and the lady admits that she likes the famous warrior Hamosu, not knowing that she's with him right there. She accidentally touches his wounded arm and it looks like the wound is still painful. Then at the moment suddenly one of the village soldiers sees them, but he's not much concerned. Suddenly the Iron Army arrives to the village and the village leader sees them, father to Lady Yowa. At night they gather all the clan members. They inform them that Hamosu is injured on his left arm. If you get to see his body, dead or alive, report to us immediately. But if you attempt to hide him, all of your heads will fall to the ground. Lady Yowa and her servant realize that the man they are taking care of is General Hamosu and they leave immediately. The man who saw Yowa and a strange man assumes that he might be General Hamosu. He immediately informed the village leader and they pray that he's not the one. Out of fear they immediately ride their horses to go and inform the Han in order to avoid danger. Yowa and the servant runs back immediately and question the man if he's the one known as Hamosu, which he denies. He asks them what's the problem. They inform him that the Iron Army have just left the village, but they warned whoever hides the body of the general, the whole village will be exterminated. She sends the servant out and asks him about his name and he calls himself Li Gansang. The village leader comes back with the Iron Army straight to his daughter's home and they start to search inside only to see nothing. But lucky Hamosu escapes the area that night, back to the Iron Army. They ask the lady what was the name of the individual she helped. She said he was Li Gansang. They asked whether he was injured or not and she replied that he was. Their leader immediately cut her father and orders his men to kill the whole clan. They start killing each and everyone from the Habeck clan, men, women, children. No one is spared except Yowa, the trouble causer. They take her as a prisoner. Prince Gimwa and the Damui soldiers coincidentally arrives at the scene searching for Hamosu. They get to know that the Iron Army killed everyone here for hiding the general. We get to see some group of merchants traveling to Hyeonchugun city and they decide to rest near the river. Chief of Jerebu clan, their leader, Juntabal, from Julbun nation, takes some water near a strange man who we know as the general. A lot of people just hear about him, but they don't know his face. He asks him if he's also a refugee, which he agrees. He invites him to have something to eat before he continues to his journey. Juntabal has a pregnant wife and she's about to give birth. They serve him well with nice big chickens. Oh my, what a moment. Juntabal talks about the Habeck clan as the way they were killed by the Iron Army. Hamosu hears this and feels a moment of guilty. The servant, Jia, continues that the only survivor, Yowa, will be taken to Hyeonchugun for public execution. If I was Hamosu, I first eat that innocent chicken before hearing to these stories. Prince Gimwa searching around and he sees Lady Yowa captured by the Han Iron Army. So that night he decides to attack them in an attempt to save the lady whom he met in Hyeonchugun city. They attack the Iron Army unprepared. Gimwa frees the lady and they run away, and those who tries to follow up they shoot them. Back to the merchants at night, Juntabal's wife goes into labor. At the moment of waiting, Chief Juntabal informs his servant Jia that the guy they found on the way is General Hamosu, and he plans to hand him over to the Han when they reach to Hyeonchugun city in exchange for 100 rolls of silk and ruby stones. Suddenly they are attacked by the bandits. As they try to defend themselves, Juntabal sees the man who now he knows fighting the bandits who came to steal, when unluckily they faced the bad news of the channel. Juntabal confirms that he's really grateful. At a very normalized moment, they inform him that his wife has given birth to a baby girl. He moves inside and names her Sono. They reach the Hyeonchugun city, the capital, but after saving his people and the baby from the bandits, Chief Juntabal decides to let him go. Gimwa takes Yowa to Buyo. The priestess Yomilu, after seeing Yowa, she calls for the prince. She asks whether he's look forward to marry a second wife. He admits that he loves her, but the priestess advises him to stay away from her. He rides to the Damo camp and they introduce him to Hamosu, who is still alive. Gimwa informs him that his father already knows about it and wishes to meet him. They head to Buyo and the king have a private conversation with Hamosu. Hamosu informs the king that uniting all the clans will be their only way to win the battle, and the rest of the clans are willing to join. The king is happy with the idea and tells the general that Buyo will join his army to fight the Han. Later on, Prince Gimwa takes Hamosu to meet Yowa. Hamosu kneels and begs her to forgive him, of what she agrees. She tells him that she wants him to win the war against the Han as the way to avenge her people. This motivates him engage in daily training with his men along the Buyo's few soldiers. Few days pass, the prince is informed that Lady Yowa has joined the Damui's army. Her only work is to cook for the soldiers. Yowa and Hamosu take some walk in the bushes, where she admits that she's in love with him. Prince Gimwa was aside witnessing and he get to know that he's not the one she love. Gimwa and Hamosu traveled all over the clans requesting them to join a conquest to take down the Han. Some give them the soldier while others supply them with military weapons. One night Hamosu proposes to Yowa and puts the ring on her finger. The priestess and Chang'an decide to get rid of three-legged bird whom we know as Hamosu. They inform the idea to the king. Inform the king that even they win the battle, Buyo will be in trouble. Chang'an continues that a lot of the clans have joined, but it's not under your control. The king informs them that Buyo's Han controls this conquest. Chang'an tells him that this insurgent is not yours. The king insists that Hamosu only gained permission to be the vanguard. Chang'an continues that all the clans joined them after hearing of Hamosu's involvement, not because of Buyo or Yu. The priestess confirms it that the alliance of the other clans is under Hamosu's control, not his majesty. Back to Damui's camp, Hamosu is informed about the refugees who run away from the Han nation, so plans to go with some soldiers to save them. Gimwa asks the general to let him do it instead, because Hamosu is the one responsible for leading the big battle against the Han. Gimwa requests permission from his father, who was brainwashed by Chang'an and the priestess. Chan informs the prince that we leave you to go on one clue, which states that, before he leaves, he must visit the priestess, which he agrees. That night Hamosu wait for the prince but was nowhere to be seen, so he decides to take this back in his hands. In Buyo, one of the soldier informs Chang'an that they have informed the Han about Hamosu's mission to rescue the refugees. Gimwa arrives at the camp very late when Hamosu and some of the soldiers had already gone. Damui army attacks the Han that night, which we already know is a trap. They start enjoying killing the available few soldiers. At the moment the refugees comes and surround them, which turns out to be the Han soldiers dressed as the refugees. We get to see the Iron Army waiting aside for the perfect moment to attack. They attack and surround the general. They kill his men as he watches, but he can't do anything. It took like 15 Iron Army men to capture Hamosu. Later on Gimwa arrives and the remaining survivor informs him that it was a trap and general is captured. When Gimwa informs the news to Lady Yowa, she straight away heads to Hyon Chugun City. Hamosu is beaten up and even his eyes are removed and will be extradited to Han Nation in 3 days' times. In a sad moment Yowa informs Gimwa that she's pregnant with Hamosu's child. As a way of convincing her to leave the area, he assures her that he will save him. Chang'an tells Gimwa to abandon the plans of rescuing Hamosu. He continues that the person who set up Hamosu's downfall was his majesty. He made this decision to protect Buyo, your kingdom, and the crown prince. Jim asked Chang if he had prior knowledge of this, which he agrees. On the day of transferring the general to the Han nation, Prince Gimwa and the Damui army attack the Han soldiers. They throw a tree between them and the Iron Army to buy some time. Gimwa releases the general and put him to a horse and they run. Then the Iron Army manages to remove the tree immediately and start going after them. But unluckily Hamosu's horse take a different path and this splits the two. The Iron Army also divide into two, one to chase Hamosu and the other follows the prince. Hamosu's horse reach the end and it stops. The army arrives at the moment and start shooting him with arrows until he fall off. Prince Gimwa was on the other side, he couldn't do anything. Some long time passed, Yowa goes to labor and gives birth to a baby boy. At that very moment the priestess calls for Chan'an. She asks him whether Hamosu died for real. She tells him that the three-legged bird has vanished from Buyo-sun, but instead it should have died because it might fly back again. She continues that it flew away with strength. Prince Gimwa informs Chang'an that Yowa has given birth to Hamosu's son, at the moment when the king is ill health. Yowa and the boy will be staying outside the palace for now, but after I become the king, she will enter the palace immediately. Chanan gets one of his men in the palace, the general in Buyo, Jerk Kai. He orders him a special task of killing Hamosu's son and the mother. He immediately head to Yowa's home, but to find she has escaped. Lady Yowa doesn't want his son to grow as a prince in Buyo. The Buyo's general Jerk Kai starts searching for her in the forest. Prince Gimwa visits Lady Yowa, but to realize that her servant has been killed. General Jerk Kai sees Lady Yowa and asks her why she's moving alone with the child in the mountain. He suggests to guide her on her way, which she denies and move away. General calls her and tells her that he will not let them go. Lady Yowa asked him why he's doing this. Jerk Kai tells her that since you're about to die, Hamosu's death was all planned by Buyo's king, to prevent the Buyo's destruction at the hands of Hamosu. She asked him whether Gimwa know about this. He tells that the prince doesn't know. As he raised the sword to slash her and the baby, thunder hits him and fall down. Lady Yowa moves around and realize she have nowhere to go, so she decide to move back to Buyo such that her son can avenge for Hamosu. She meets Gimwa and he vow to the heavens to raise this baby as his own son. They decide to name the baby Jumong. And the movie starts officially. That was just a sample of what you're going to see. 20 years later, Gimwa raised Jumong as his own son. Gimwa, now the king, continued the campaign in recapturing the Gojoseon lands. He expanded Buyo's borders through numerous battles. This reached the point where it scared the Han nation. We get to see the crown prince, Daiso, his young brother, Yongpo, and the youngest, Jumong. They meet their father King Gimwa. They came far from Buyo to join him in the battle, but Jumong looks like he doesn't have anything to say. The king asks Jumong whether his mother Lady Yowa doing well. This annoys the two brothers because the king didn't ask about the queen, mother to both of them. As they prepare to head to the battlefield, Jumong never learned how to use a sword before. So the elder brother informs him that the king would be disappointed to know this, so we just head to the battle, I will protect you. The next day, they set to battle. The king usually involves in the battles, and this time round he will fight with his 3 sons. The enemies arrive at the battlefield. Buyo sends their messenger, but these guys came to fight, not to receive messages, so they killed him immediately as a sign to start the war. The king permits Daiso to attack with the army. They attack and our poor Jumong pulls out the sword as the best warrior of all. The battle begins and Yongpo and Daiso looks well skilled, but King Gimwa is only focused on Jumong, who is just killing the ghosts. One man pull off Jumong from the horse and he starts screaming. This act even surprised the man, but Daiso was there and helped him. The king is very disappointed after seeing this madness. Generals inform King Gimwa how they have been out of Buyo for almost a year fighting. Chanan informs him that the Prime Minister of Hyeonchugun ordered us to return to Buyo. The king asks the priestess her opinion. She tells him that if you don't wish to wage a war with the Han, let's retreat. The king tells them to prepare. They return to Buyo, but he tells them that he doesn't fear to fight the Han. They return to Buyo after 1 year, with his 3 sons. Lady Ye Soya prepares to meet the king. Her sons joins and inform her that Daiso killed the enemy's general. At the moment of waiting the king to come, one servant informs her that the king has gone to meet Lady Yowa instead. This was a moment of heartbreak to the family. King Gimwa have a conversation with Lady Yowa, telling her that he have reclaimed some of the land to make amends with Hamosu. He continues that we have built a strong foundation that can challenge the Han, but still my debt to Hamosu is still unpaid. I promised myself to raise Hamosu's son Jumong, to be a strong hero to defeat the Han. But Jumong we have is very weak for these ambitions. Gimwa informs her that start from now, Jumong will undergo intensive training and I will have to make hard decisions to fulfill this. But don't be hurt. On the side of the Juntabal, he plans to sell some swords to Hei Nation, but he's not part of the journey. So he informs them that my daughter Sosona will lead the group even if she's a girl. In Buyo, they begin the memorial ceremony. But Jumong is on his business looking for girls. He stops Buyang, one of the servants inside the divination palace. He begins to tell her that she should be in love, despite the fact that she serves in the divination palace. He forcefully takes her away and she drops her things. The memorial ceremony goes ahead and Jumong should attend, but he's nowhere to be seen. Jumong takes her in a room. Suddenly they hear some people moving outside. The Buyo's patrol soldiers realize that one of the store was left open. So they enter and check to see nothing. They move out and even lock the door. Jumong and Buyang remain stuck in the store. Buyang informs him that if I don't attend the ceremony, they could send me out of the palace. King Gimwa and others are worried of Jumong missing. Lady Ye Soya informs the king that she doesn't like Jumong. He's weak and lazy with no abilities. The king tells her that if Jumong is weak, then that's your advantage, because he will not be an obstacle for Yongpo and Daiso. Lady Ye Soya says that she disliked their presence in the palace. Yongpo finds the things that Buyang dropped, he finds them in the store and reports them straight to the king. The king tells Jumong that you ain't sorry for your mother for all things she been through. The king orders his men to give Jumong 20 strokes of the plank. Daiso tells the king that Jumong will accompany us on the journey to find the Damui bow. He begs the king to postpone the punishment until they come back. Priestess Yomilyu informed Chang'an that there is something extraordinary about Jumong. Jumong's mother informs him that Buyang was sent out of the palace after giving her 10 strokes. Since Jumong and others are going to start their journey for the Damui bow, Lady Yowa sends him to go and rest. In the morning the King Gimwa informs them that they are stepping out of the palace as normal local people. No matter how hard the situation would be, no one is supposed to reveal his identity. They start their journey to visit the Damui bow. They reach a certain spot and Jumong gets water for his 2 brothers. At night Daiso informs him to eat more, because tomorrow he will lead the way. They enter the forest as Jumong is leading. On their way forward there's fog and the way is not clear. Daiso and Yongpo decide to run away from him. He begins calling for them. Suddenly the horse drops in the mud pit. He starts shouting for anyone near to help as Daiso and Yongpo runs off leaving him to die. As he's drowning into the mud pit some group of people saves his life. Later that night he wakes up and we get to see Juntabal's daughter, Sono. Jumong was saved by Juntabal's group. Jumong orders her to inform where they are, but instead she just leave, as he grabs her hand. Sono beats him up and orders her men to tie him up. Daiso and Yongpo reach Mountain Shijo where the Damui bow resides. Sono and the group reach and meet certain men to trade with them. They check the goods and we get to see the swords made from steel. One of her men, Wote, tests these swords by hitting one of their swords and it breaks. As they proceed into the agreement, the man orders his men to kill them to take the swords for free. They start to fight, but those ancient days traders expect these moments, so they move with good fighters. They fight until they put the sword at the neck of their leader. Sono orders his man Wote to kill them, but he denies and informs her to kill them by herself, so she decides to let them go. This annoys her, but she have nothing to do. We get to know that Wote is Jia's son. Jumong threats them that they tied him as a baby, but if they free him he will show them what he's capable of. They were not bad, they release him. They inform him that if he fights with their luggage carrier and wins him, he will be free. They start fighting but Jumong seems to be very weak. The man beats him up and falls down. Sono teases him that only his mouth works hard. This annoys him and he goes back to the battle, and they fight and Jumong surprisingly hits the man hard and he sleeps. Daiso and Yongpo reach at the top of the mountain, but get difficulties finding their way to see the Damui bow. Until later that night where Daiso gets a plan and they decide to follow the Virgin Star. They reach into a certain cave. In the morning Sono and the group escorts Jumong to Mountain Shijo. Jumong tells Sono that he's called Jumong. He confessed that his prince in Buyo and he even likes her, but she just move away and continue with her men on their journey. Daiso and Yongpo moves further into the cave not knowing that Jumong is still alive and he has also reached the area. They meet the Damui sword, which is considered as Buyo's ancient treasure. Daiso tries to string the bow, but it seems like a very hard task for him. Yongpo also tries to string it, but fails. In this case they just put it back and praise to their gods. Jumong reach the mountain and decide to rest. At the moment he hears Daiso and Yongpo talking about him, that they want to see how Jumong's mother will react after knowing the death news of her son. Jumong realizes that his brothers attempted to kill him. Jumong decides to continue on his journey to visit the Damui bow. He easily gets into the cave and wanders inside. He's scared by a group of bats. Now we realize that Jumong is short-tempered and when he's annoyed he unleashes his fighting powers. He also meets Damui bow and he first prays the gods before touching it. After he picks it up and he also attempts to string it. But surprisingly he manages to do it. No one has ever managed to string it in over last 2 decades. Jumong continues and pull the string and accidentally breaks the bow. Daiso and Yongpo informs the king that Jumong is dead and King Gimwa is very furious about the news. Lady Yowa faints after hearing the news. Gimwa orders the general to go with 200 soldiers to search for Jumong. Daiso and Yongpo joins the group to search for Jumong. At the moment of departing the area, they see Jumong coming and they are very surprised. They prepare a ceremony to welcome back 3 brothers. The king asks Daiso whether he tried to string the bow. He agrees and admits that the bow is very hard. He asks the same thing to Yongpo, but he lies that Daiso managed to strung it. He asks Jumong and he tells them that he never visited the Damo bow. The king feels very disappointed again. Jumong confessed to his mother that he met the Damo bow and even managed to strung it, but unfortunately the Damo bow broke as he tried to pull the string. He continues that Daiso and Yongpo tried to kill him. Lady Yesoya is very furious after the two failed to kill Jumong. He informs them that King Gimwa might crown Jumong as his successor. Daiso orders Yongpo to spy on Jumong as they plan to kill him for the second time. Jumong informs his mother that he acted timid so that everyone would believe that he's a fool. The mother Lady Yowa informs him that she will make him the crown prince and Jumong will succeed the king. She wants Jumong to be the crown prince. The king is the one to decide the crown prince, despite the fact that Daiso is the elder brother. So first she wants Jumong to learn how to fight. They meet one of the fighter known as Musong. He works as a captain of the prison. He will be training Jumong martial arts, so Jumong calls himself Chumo to hide his identity. On the fact that Jumong's hands are soft like for women, he first of all orders him to climb the mountain. Jumong managed to dedicate himself and reach the top of the mountain. After long time, one morning Jumong finds his master asleep. He again informs him to climb the mountain but slowly. This annoys Jumong and tells him that it has been 2 months of training, but he just been climbing the mountains. In that case Musong decide to take him to the prison he leads. He displays his skills and this motivates Jumong and start training. He trains for a while and learns how to use a sword despite using the wooden one. Yongpo and Daiso show off their skills and Daiso is far better and no one is better than him as a swordsman. At the moment someone informs the Prime Minister that the king wants to see him immediately. We get to know the Buyo's blacksmith has developed a new set of strong weapons. They want to get strong swords equal to that of the Han. We get to see Mo Pamo, the blacksmith. King Gimwa comes and observe the sword as he plans to test it. Sono and the group comes back and meet Juntabal. Jia is not pleased to trade with Sono. Juntabal informs him that Sono will be my successor and if you don't want her to lead you, better find a way out of here. Juntabal meets Priestess Yomilyu. He informs her that he wants the ability to buy and sell not just goods, but even the whole world. She invites him to the divination temple. The ceremony to test the sword expected to be hard as that of the Han. They even invite Priestess Yomilyu to the ceremony. Daiso requests to test the sword. He even requests King to allow Jumong to be his opponent. He promises to match his swordplay with that of inferior Jumong. The king agrees and Jumong is handed the sword from the Han. And Daiso picks the one they have just made. The battle begins and as we know Daiso is the superior. He kicks Jumong and even attempts to cut him. This annoys Jumong and unleash the fighting beast inside and even holding the sword like Jet Li. They continue and Jumong cuts Daiso's sword and it breaks into two. Mo Pamo asks the king to forgive him after failing to make the sword harder as the one of the Han. After the ceremony Daiso realizes that Jumong has been learning how to use the sword, so he orders Yongpo to strictly monitor him. Lady Yesoya calls for Lady Yowa. At the moment she calls for the musician as the gift for Lady Yowa. The man informs them that he's going to tell them a story about a fallen hero Hamosu. This shocks Lady Yowa. The man tells the story from the beginning and in the end. It indicates that Lady Yesoya wants to show Lady Yowa that she knows Jumong is not King Gimwa's son. Later on Chief Juntabal brings gifts to meet Priestess Yomilyu. They move inside to have a simple conversation. Yomilyu asks Juntabal why he came to meet him along with a lot of gifts. Juntabal only says that he just need a good partnership with her. Jumong moves around the town on his way to daily martial arts practices, but he suspects as if there's someone spying on him. At the same time, Sono and some of her father's bodyguards vote. She surprisingly sees Jumong but he was unable to see her as he tries to run away from the spies. As a way of disappearing Jumong decides to have a drink at a nearby bar. He continues his daily training sessions. At the moment Jumong requests to see some of the prisoners. Musong agrees and they head inside. They start serving them food as Jumong is so curious to see their faces. They reach a certain gate and Musong suggests Chumo, for us we know as Jumong, to stay at the gate, as Musong wants to serve the last prisoner alone. Chumo wants to know why is left behind. Musong informs him that he also don't know who these prisoners are. But this prisoner was under special guard even before Musong was posted here. Chumo insists and Musong agrees. They go together. We get to see an old man who has been locked in this prison for a long time. Jumong returns home and have a conversation with his mother. He informs her about the strange man he saw who was in prison for decades. He was blind in both eyes. Jumong continues that he felt like he was hit by the lighting at the moment he laid his eyes on him. This story shocks Lady Yowa and remembers Hamosu. On the other side, Priestess Yomilu calls for Prime Minister Chan. She informs him how the king wants to choose a day to honor General Hamosu's death. She after inform him that Hamosu is still alive. This statement shocks the Prime Minister. The moment the Iron Army shot the general and he drowned in the river, Gimwa was there and witnessed his death. But after a while Hamosu appeared in Buyo one night. Only the priestess and the general knew about his appearance. So they decide to imprison him to a place where His Highness Gimwa can never find. They imprisoned him in a cave prison under Mountain Seomi. The next day in the midday, Chanan and Yomilu decide to visit the prison. Jumong he comes back to meet the strange man once again. Jumong asks him about the crime he committed. But he said he doesn't know why he was imprisoned. The man admits that he doesn't remember who he is and his name. At the moment Chanan and Yomilu proceed inside the prison. Luckily Jumong lands his eyes on them before they see him. When they reach Hamosu's cell he asks Musong why he came with strange people. Hamosu manages to smell the scent and realize that Musong came with two strange people, man and a woman. Prime Minister and Yomilu remain silent and they move out and leave. Back in the palace, Dai-so orders Yongpo to bring Jumong to the training field. Jumong agrees and follow Yongpo. Dai-so asks Jumong why he usually move out, but Jumong says that he gets bored in the palace. Dai-so suggests they have a simple training challenge with Jumong. Jumong hesitate first, but he finally agrees. They take a simple fight and Dai-so breaks Jumong's sword. He informs him that no matter how hard I convince you to fight me, don't let your ego lie to you, don't ever fight with me. Later Jumong meets Mo Parmo the swordsman and they have a drink. Jumong wants Mo Parmo to make unbreakable sword for him. Dai-so have a conversation with his uncle. He informs him how the king wants to make Jumong the crown prince. His uncle replied that it's possible because His Majesty has always been taking care of Jumong. He continues that we must eliminate the troublemakers. In the loyal chambers the king is informed that Suniban clan has started a war with Buyo. The general informs him that Suniban clan crossed the Lai River and burned the nearby villages, even stealing all the rations. Another commander tells them that the Suniban clan came in the group of 10 and took hold of the villages. He continues that we were no match because they had swords made of steel. King Gima assumes that the Han supplied steel swords to the Suniban clan. Prime Minister Chan informs the king that the new governor of Hyeon Taegun City is on his way to Buyo at this moment. The king asks why the governor is coming to Buyo instead of the Hyeon Taegun City. Chanan concludes that he's coming to pay a visit to your majesty. After some time King Gimwa gathers all the nobles and the generals. Chanan informs the king that the Suniban clan armed with steel weapons and they attacked us, and now the governor calls on us. It's much of a coincidence. He orders Prime Minister to tell all the blacksmiths to start making new weapons as they prepare the battle with the Han. On the side of Chief Juntabal, they have some conversation after knowing some of the news in the palace. One of his men, Seong, says that Han nation supplying the Suniban clan with steel weapons. It was meant to discover whether Buyo has iron workshop or not. Chief Juntabal orders Woke to buy off someone and make that individual inform them details inside the palace. One night Jumong sneaks his way inside the ironware workshop where he finds Mo Parmo. He starts showing him how the process of making a sword is followed. Jumong starts the process of making his own sword, but we get to see that there's someone spying on him. After finishing, Jumong informs Mo Parmo that he wants to repeat the process. In the same night Yongpo sees Dai-so's man, Naru. He was spying on Jumong and Yongpo force him to inform him what he discovered. He tells him that Jumong is making a sword in the ironware workshop. Yongpo orders him not to inform Dai-so. The next day the Hyeon Taegun governor arrives in Buyo. We get to see that his King Gimwa's old friend, now Governor Yangjing. They set up a simple ceremony to welcome the governor. We see Gimwa very happy. After they have a walk with a simple conversation, Governor Yangjing informs him that I came here for two reasons. One is to visit my old friend, another is to relay the Han imperial family's letter of correspondence. King Gimwa reads through it and it shocked him. The Han nation will not allow Buyo to continue its conquest. King Gimwa furiously declares Governor Yangjing as his enemy. Governor Yangjing informs him that we shall not end only on Suniban clan. The Han will also supply the steel swords to various neighboring clans. The king returns in the loyal chambers and orders the ironware workshop to be closed. Prime Minister passes the order to Mo Parmo to inform others to step out the ironware workshop and hide. Mo Parmo tries to enter the palace and inform Jumong not to return to the ironware workshop, but the guards refuse to let him inside. Jumong that very day was out of the palace to his daily training routines, so he was unable to know what is going on in the palace. Governor Yang Jing starts searching to see whether Buyo has the ironware workshop, but they were unable to discover it. That night Jumong as usual he sneaks into the ironware workshop, but Yongpo and Narua were spying on him. Jumong start lighting up the fire, but at that moment it explodes. All the guards are alerted and the governor also gets to know and sends his men to see what happened. They get to see the swords and discover the ironware workshop in Buyo. Yongpo informed Daiso that he was behind the plan of explosion. He tried to kill Jumong, but this fool didn't realize the seriousness of his mistake. Daiso furiously tells him that the governor came to watch and gather intelligence on Buyo sword manufacturing, and because of Yongpo the governor is now aware of everything. The governor comes to the loyal chamber wondering why King Gimwa claimed that there is no ironware workshop in Buyo. He asks him if he's still going to continue denying the facts. Governor Yang Jing warns Buyo to abolish all their ironware workshops immediately. He concludes that this affair has through thorough investigation, all the trade between Buyo and the Han will be temporarily suspended. King Gimwa orders for Jumong, he orders him to explain himself before the government officials. King Gimwa informs Jumong that he's no longer a prince of Buyo, and sends him out of the palace immediately. He informed him that you brought outmost harm to Buyo and even caused me humiliation before the governor. All those I can forgive and forget, however you betrayed all the expectations I have of you, that's unforgivable. Lady Yowa learns about the news of Jumong, but she feels good because she also thought of chasing Jumong. She says that only when Jumong is able to climb up the cliff by himself, then Jumong will succeed. Daiso and family jubilate at the moment. Lady Yowa orders her servant to tell Musong not to see Jumong when he tries to find him. Jumong moves out of the palace and decide to meet Musong, but they inform him that they elected a new prison captain, so they send him away. He reaches the town and some city-born sees him, they start pretending like fighting near him, and finally they steal his little treasures he had in his pocket. After their mission they meet a certain trader, Dochi. They present what they are selling and he informs them that no any ordinary person is able to afford this stuff. We get to see Buyang the former priestess's servant working at Dochi's place, one of the thieves, he seemed to have a crush on her. Jumong decide to have something to eat at a restaurant not aware that his treasures were stolen. Time reach to pay and realize that he have nothing to pay. At the moment Sosono comes and pays the bill. She wonders the Buyo's prince is unable to pay his bills. He follows them and requests to work for their clan. She refuse and say that how can I afford to use a prince of Buyo. Back in the palace, the king is handed a letter from Hyeonchugun city, but instead King Gimwa ordered the letter to be burned. Daiso's uncle, palace emissary suggests that it's time for the king to appoint the crown prince. He continued that to reduce on the Han's depression, our country's roots should be deep and solid. King Gimwa asked him whether he have received the date of his death as well. Strong question. The king informed them that this is not the time to name the crown prince. Daiso and the family meet outside. His mom tells him to kill Jumong so that they can be patient and wait. Jumong moves around the town very hungry. One of Daiso's man, Naru, is spying on him at the moment. He moves out of the crowd and is attacked by certain serial killers. He tried to run but it was too late. They have surrounded the whole area. Jumong, as funny it looks like, is trying to use his bag to fight against these men with swords. He tried defending himself, but they are equipped with weapons. Suddenly one killer stabs him and kicks him to the wall. They move closer to finish him, but luckily unknown man joins the battle and beats them. He's very dangerous with all types of kicking styles. Jumong at the moment runs away to save himself. The thieves who robbed his treasures sees him in a critical condition, so they decide to carry him and they rush him to Dochi's place. They ask Byang whether she can help him, because she knows him she accepts. Daiso and Yongpo ask Naru whether he completed the mission. It's clear that they attempted to kill Jumong. In the loyal chambers the king asks his man where's Jumong. King Gimwa kicked Jumong out of the palace, but still he sent some trained soldiers to keep eyes on him. Byang start to provide medical care to Jumong. She doesn't understand why the prince was harmed. In the prison, the guards ask their captain Musong to tell them some story. He refuses first and they give him wine, so he agrees. He continued from where he ended the last time. He goes, Lady Yowa met General Hamosu at the Damui army camp. This story touched Hamosu and he start listening. Don't forget that he doesn't remember who his, Musong continued. He saw Lady Yowa and thought that he was dead. Musong moves on with the story and Hamosu start having some memory recall. They asked him what happened to Lady Yowa. This drive Hamosu's attention. Musong replied that she was already pregnant with Hamosu's child. When he finish up the story, Hamosu calls him and asks him that Lady Yowa was really pregnant. Musong inform him that there are lots of different versions. After Musong leaving, Hamosu remembers everything. On the side of Chief Juntabal, they talk about a certain trader Dochi, how he smuggles salt despite government jurisdiction. Jia comes and inform them that the divination palace sent maid to inform Juntabal to visit the high priestess in the palace. So Sono requests to join and his father agrees. Priestess Yomilu informs Juntabal that she's going to connect him to the king. She escorts him to the loyal chambers where others are not allowed to proceed. Chief Juntabal meets the king. The king asks him why would he conduct a business transaction with him. Juntabal tells him that if you knew how the Suniban clan armed themselves with hand weapons, it would have been an easier battle. So Chief Juntabal suggests to be providing the information to His Majesty. He continues how he have men in every corner of the earth. The Prime Minister informs the king that this will be a great advantage for Buyo. The king asked Juntabal what he wants in return. He asked the king he would like to deal with all transactions between Han Nation and Buyo. The king agrees and the deal is confirmed. So Sono moves around the palace and accidentally trespasses into the training ground. We get to see Prince Dai-so practicing his skills, including shooting arrows. He suspects someone spying on him. He attempts to strike her and missed, so he walks towards her with the sword. Dai-so thinks that Sono is one of the new maids in the palace, so Sono shows him that she knows martial arts. Dai-so thinks that she's a jockeying subject. Dai-so decide they fight. They take a simple fight and Dai-so still is not taking things serious until she shows him a super combination skills, so he decide to attack seriously, but still Sono is able to hold him off until the high priestess servant arrive at the moment, and call him Your Majesty Prince. So Sono shockingly realize that the person she was playing on is the prince and begs for his forgiveness. The servants inform Prince Dai-so that Sono is Chief Juntabal's daughter and they take her away. But Dai-so seems to have liked her. At Dochi's place, we get to see Byang taking care of Jumong. At the moment he begins to recover. In the town, one of the thieves, Marley, calling out Musong as their big brother. Musong asks him whether they are still swindling the citizens. Marley asks Musong to help them to find something to do. He said, I don't even know what to do with myself. How can I help you? At the moment two men move around the city with the drawing of a certain man. We get to know that they are searching for Jumong. Musong recalls this face and remember Chumo, but they tell them that they never seen him before. Jumong apologized to Byang because she was sent out of the palace because of him. She tells him that she's too lowly to give a prince forgiveness. Jumong sadly tells her that he was kicked out from the palace and he's no longer a prince. Marley comes and informs his friends that there are certain people looking for the man they helped. At that moment Jumong steps out and they get to know that he's still alive. Jumong thanked them for saving his life. They ask him who he is and why he was stabbed. They told him not to make things bad for them, so they chased him away. Now Jumong realized that life is getting worse. Jumong in a sad situation begs Byang to let him stay with her and find work. Musong tells Lady Yowa's servant how Jumong is being chased and is wounded. She passes that information to Lady Yowa. Dai-so and the family talk about how they sent out pictures searching for Jumong but they are unable to find him. They are confident that Jumong is hiding in Buyo because he has nowhere to go. Juntabal's daughter and others are spying on Mo Pamo the Buyo swordsmith. They want to engage with him to learn the secret method. Jia tells them that he will handle him. Byang introduced Jumong to Dochi as he wants to get a job. Dochi allows him to enter the group of smugglers. Buyang Ojuchi and he informs her that if she can't handle the debt, she know what will happen. That night, Sono goes to a mission as they want to eliminate all the smugglers from the area. Jumong is included on the team of smugglers that night. They move down the river, but Sono and the group are in the area ready to ambush. Dochi orders his men to get the goods onto the cart. Sono also orders her men to kill them and they start shooting them with fire arrows. After they head down to finish them off, Sono who remained behind sees Jumong technically killing her soldiers. She is shocked because Jumong she knows is very weak with no abilities. Wote puts down Dochi and is about to finish him, but Jumong was there and help him, so they decide to retreat. Dochi appreciates Jumong for saving his life. Jumong feels good as this is the first time someone appreciating his work. Dochi sends his man to find out who ambushed them. Sono that night remains in a film of thoughts about Jumong. The next day Dochi's man, Han Dang, informs him that Juntabal's group ambushed them. So he gets these 3 thieves and gives them a mission to attack Juntabal's group. They attack and we get to see that they are very skilled fighters. The mission was to kidnap Juntabal's daughter Sono, but they engaged with the wrong news, but as men they managed to take her away. Juntabal gets to know, he orders Seong to go see Dochi and find out what his demands are, then tells Wote to take fighters and place them around Dochi's domain. Dochi informs Sono that his father is coming. Seong arrive and negotiate with Dochi, but he refused to discuss with him and orders him to tell Chief Juntabal to come and bow before him. Dochi tells him that he will kill Sono if he doesn't hear from them by daybreak. Jumong now realize that Dochi kidnapped Sono and he knows her because she saved his life multiple times. Seong returns back to Chief Juntabal and informs what Dochi demands are. He advises him to bow before Dochi and accept all his demands. Chief Juntabal agrees as the only way to save his daughter. Jumong sneaks to a place where Sono is kept. Marley and the group decide to go have something to eat because they locked her. Jumong gets a chance to move inside and unties her. He tells her to run, but she doesn't trust him and she questions his motives. But finally he manages to convince her and she accepts. As they are running, Marley and the group comes back only to see Jumong helping Sono to escape. As they have less time, Jumong decide to buy some time for Sono to run. Jumong fights, but they are far better than him. He go after Sono, but he was unable to track her down. Marley and the Yokbo beats up Jumong severely. Buyo comes and stops them. They question her why she's helping him. They insist to kill him until she tells them that he's a prince. They get confused and to figure out how to get out of this mess. Marley informs them that if they are going to die at Dochi's hands, they would rather take Jumong and run, as they have saved him twice. There's a chance of Jumong repaying his debt. Chief Juntabal reaches Dochi's domain. He was there spying and realize things are getting worse. Jumong wakes only to see Marie and Yokbo showing their respect to him. Byang informs him that she had to tell them. He returns and tells them Juntabal has arrived, so they decide to escape the area. They ask Byang to go with them, but she refused because Dochi will harm her brothers and sisters. Dochi and Juntabal meet. Dochi tells him that he wants silk 5 times the amount of salt Juntabal's group took from him, and Juntabal have to crawl between his legs. This is the best. Chief Yun accepts all, but he first want to confirm his daughter's well-being. Dochi orders his man Han Dang to bring Sono. He comes to the storeroom only to find out that Sono is not there. He comes back and inform his boss in privacy. Dochi decide to demand all Juntabal's assets in Buyo as the way of hardening the negotiations. Chief Juntabal insists on seeing his daughter first, but Dochi seems to stick on different topics, so Juntabal decide to just leave. After Dochi orders for Byang and start beating her up, asking where is Chumo, Marley and others. Juntabal and the group returns home only to find Sono there. Marley and the group take Jumong to their big brother at the prison, but he shows them that he knows this place and their captain. They tell him that they will treat him as their elder brother while he's outside the palace. Musong comes and he get to see Jumong. They move inside and inform him the whole story. They want Jumong to keep on staying here. Musong agrees. Musong decide to take Jumong to a hidden cell where he will be staying for a while. Coincidentally, he takes him to Hamosu's cell. Hamosu is able to recall his scent and tells him that they met before. In the palace, King Gimwa comes into the ironware workshop. They show him the sword they have just made. He tells them that there's no need to test it. He smash it on the metal stand and it breaks. He tells Mopamo that your skills are not yours alone in your life. They both belong to Buyo. He concludes by telling him not to waste time and begin again. He returns in the loyal chambers and calls for Daiso and Yongpo to entrust them with some duties. Daiso will take charge of the foreign ministry, so Chief Juntabal will assist him. Yongpo will assist General Hugh Kai in strengthening national defense, and will be in charge with military training and battle tactics. Back in the prison, Jumong trains every day and the time has reached when Musong can't stand with him. Musong tells him to find a new teacher as he have nothing else to teach him. Jumong returns to the cell to rest. Hamosu asks him whether he's learning swordsmanship and this interests Jumong. They have a long conversation and Hamosu tells him a story about the Damui army. Chief Juntabal is informed that Prince Daiso has visited them. They move out and take their greetings to the prince. Sono get to meet the prince for the second time. They move inside and have a conversation talking about multiple stories, and after he leave, but it seems like he's interested in Sono. Marley and the group bring some wine and meat for Jumong. Musong hands him a swordsmanship scroll that he studied since Jumong can't find a new teacher inside here. Jumong share the meat with Hamosu. He tells him more stories about his past and the wife she loved most. That night Lady Yowa's servant, Muduk, meet Musong, and he informs her that he knows where Chumo is. She right away takes the informs to her mistress. Lady Yowa tells her that she have to see Jumong immediately. But there's an individual spying on them. We get to know that his Daiso's man, Naru. They reach the prison. Jumong is busy reading the swordsmanship scroll. Hamosu tells him to put it aside and says that he will be his teacher. Jumong is not sure whether a blind man in both eyes can teach him sword skills. Musong comes in and calls Jumong out, comes out and lands his eyes on his mother. They have a conversation and Hamosu hears Lady Yowa's voice. Lady Yowa leave, but leaving Hamosu in a film of memories. Yongpo and the mother get to know where Jumong is hiding. Lady Ye Soya meets the king and asks him whether he knows Buyo has a secret prison. King immediately calls the Prime Minister and Chang-eun confirms the existence of the prison. This frustrates the king and he wants to see that prison. Prime Minister tells this to High Priestess. Hamosu start training Jumong the art of fighting. He shows him the unspeakable sword skills which only few of us knows in this world. Jumong asks him how long will it take for him to attain his level of standard. Hamosu tells him to move closer. He checks him and after he tells him to turn around, he informs him that his bones are too weak. So he start clearing his acupoint and after Jumong faints. Naru informs Daiso that there are 10 soldiers guarding the prison. Daiso tells him to pick some good fighters as they plan to kill Jumong. Marley and the group visits Jumong at the prison. Jumong is worried about Buyong's condition. But he doesn't like Jumong because he is the cause of Buyong's poor conditions. He suggests they fight in order to relive himself. Jumong agrees and they start to fight. He beats him up and Jumong falls down. Jumong return and attack with full power and show that don't mess with Hamosu's students. Prince Daiso and Yongpo get some swords from Ironware Workshop. They take some good fighters to attack the prison. But the king also is in the preparation to visit the prison. Daiso and the group attack to kill each and everyone inside the prison. They start slaughtering everyone including prisoners. Jumong and Hamosu hears some strange sound. Some soldiers try to escape only to get themselves into shooting targets. Daiso and the group enter the cell to find him there. Since Jumong is about to die, they reveal themselves. Daiso tells him that all relations they have must end now. They start to fight and one soldier attempts to attack Hamosu but he shows him level and beats up some nearby soldiers. Daiso attack but these are just kids. Hamu beats them and puts the sword at Yongpo's neck. They use this chance to run out of the cell. They start slashing their way out of the area. Jumong breaks the poles and they run. They reach the forest but the killers can't let them go, and they finally surround them at a wide area. Hamosu start beating up these little chicks and Daiso face him. Daiso stabs him, but as the senior he combines some techniques and cuts Daiso and they run. They get a nice place and hide, but Master Hamosu is in bad condition. King Gimwa reach the prison. General Hugh Kai sees some blood marks and first takes some soldiers to investigate the area. They find soldiers guarding the prison killed. They inform the king but he insists to move inside. They move inside only to see everyone dead and they leave. Daiso is brought back in bad condition and Lady Ye Soya tells them to make sure that no one gets to know about this. Jumong find an isolated house and hide Hamosu there as he tries to find a doctor. Jumong moves to the town and meet Marley and the group as he requests to see Dochi, but at that moment Wote is spying on them. Dochi is informed that Juntabal's group has attacked them so he moves out. This gives a chance for Jumong to see Byang and takes her away. They move back to the isolated place and Byang start treating Hamosu. Wote gets to know where Jumong is hiding. King visits Daiso and asks what happened. Yongpo informs him that was accidentally mauled by a wild beast. The king orders for Priestess Yomilyu immediately. In the morning Byang decide to move back and inform Jumong that the strange man is recovering. Yomilyu comes and treat Daiso and after she move out and inform them that he's recovering. He calls for Prime Minister that Daiso wasn't mauled by a beast, so they call for Yongpo and ask him to tell them the truth. They continue and ask him who wounded Prince Daiso. He tells them the truth how they attempted to kill Prince Jumong. Wote comes and informs Sono that has discovered where Jumong is and they decide to go there. They arrive and meet Jumong. He wonders how she discovered his location, so Sono proposed Jumong to join their trade group. Jumong tells that the situation he's in now doesn't permit him to join their trade group. Byang comes at the moment they move inside with Jumong. This leaves Sono in a film of imaginations. Hamosu recovers and they have a conversation with Jumong and Hamosu asks him why his brothers wants to kill him. Jumong tells him everything and concludes that they are brothers and he's their half-brother, third son of King Gimwa, and is known as Jumong. This shocks Hamosu after hearing the name Gimwa. Priestess Yomilu informs the king that they created that prison to take charge of untouchable prisoners, and these prisoners include Hamosu. This shocks the king and asks her why she didn't inform him before, so he orders her to use her powers to find him. Later that night he meets Lady Yowa and have a drink. He asks her whether she's happy with him. She says that she's indebted with all his eternity. He asks her whether she misses Hamosu. She admits that she still has his memories, and King Gimwa realize that Lady Yowa still love Hamosu. Jumong informs his fellows that he want to move to the town to look for Musong. He first inform his master as a way of respecting. Jumong reaches the town only to see Daiso's men searching the whole area. Jia manages to get a conversation with Mo Pamo and have a drink. That night Mo Pamo meets Jumong and they start blaming each other for burning the ironware workshop. He informs him that the king gave access of ironware work to Daiso and Yongpo. Jumong asks Mo Pamo to get him a sword. Daiso wakes up only to know that Yongpo informed the high priestess and the prime minister what they tried to do. Daiso fumes and decide to meet them. They inform him that they are not going to inform the king what he did. Yomilu tells Daiso not to jeopardize his position with rash and foolish actions. Daiso asks why the strange blind man he saw at the prison was protecting Jumong, and it seemed they were so close. Yomilu informs him that they don't know him. Hamosu requests Byang to get for him some materials for a letter. The next day Mo Pamo gets some swords for Jumong and brings them to his master. Hamosu gives him a letter and asks him to direct it to King Gimwa. So Sono admits that Jumong is not out of his mind. She asks Seong to find out whether Jumong is a prince or not. He asks her whether she have other emotions for him. She denies and move away. Her father suggests Sono must go and meet Daiso because of his injuries. She first refuses, but she later agrees. They head into the palace and they take some medicine for him. Daiso feels good after seeing her, and they have some conversation. After a while they leave and meet others. Wote comes and informs Sono that he has discovered Jumong is the third son of King Gimwa, which means he's a prince. Sono have some memories of him informing her that he's a prince. Jumong meets Muduk and gives her the letter. He tells her not to let anyone know about this letter and it must reach the king. Priestess Yomilu uses her spiritual powers to know Hamosu's location, but she fails. She meets the king and informs him that Hamosu is blocked by a stronger spirit. In the loyal chambers, King Gimwa receives the newsletters from Juntabal. He goes through them and lands on one which is strange from others. He moves to his chambers and reads through it and learns that Hamosu sent him a letter and suggests they meet on the full moon on Mountain Sumi. King Gimwa rushes out and leaves the letter on the table. One servant sneaks in and takes the letter to the prime minister. When Jumong is practicing, Hamosu comes and tells him to escort him to a certain place. That night prime minister gets some soldiers also and head to the same destination. Jumong asks Hamosu who he's going to meet and tells him Gimwa. He continues that he wants to know why he was imprisoned for 20 years yet Gimwa is the king. They reach a certain spot and Hamosu detects some strange movements. They are ambushed by unknown men in the mask. They start battling them, but they face the wrong opponents. They beat them up and run away. Prime Minister was at the scene watching everything. Hamosu assumes that this ambush is planned by King Gimwa. The king was at the mountain waiting, but Hamosu didn't show up. The next day Jumong informs Hamosu that the king can't attempt to kill him. For this case Hamosu decide to teach Jumong how to fight and be able to defend himself. The training start and Hamosu first give him fighting tips. King Gimwa asks the prime minister why Hamosu didn't appear before him after having asked to meet. It seems he was afraid of something. So King Gimwa furiously orders Prime Minister to find where Hamosu is. Jia manages to bring Mo Pamo to meet Chief Juntabal. They move inside and Chief Juntabal serves him wine and food. He after tells him that he want to start an iron workshop for his clan, so he hoped Mo Pamo would help him. Mo Pamo fumes and move away as he can't share Buyo's secrets. Yongpo comes with palace emissary to meet Dochi. At the moment Byang serves them and she sees Yongpo. They show him a drawing of Jumong and he says that he knows him. Hamo start giving Jumong the most overpowered techniques from the roots. He orders him to attack and Jumong did so, but Hamosu can't see but uses his heart to just feel the sword. He informs him that when you hold the sword, it must transform from a cold metal object into an extension of his body filled with energy and blood. So Jumong attempt for the second time and makes some progress. We shall continue from here the next time. Subscribe to the channel to help it out. Thanks for watching.